Hey folks, how y'all doing? It's been a little minute, right? So I hope everybody's doing well because it's been crazy out here. But somebody asked a question that kind of hit close to home today um, on the Voodoo Facebook group, um, and they asked if Catholicism and Voodoo, are they similar? And the answer for me is twofold, right? Because I was raised Catholic, and Catholicism is pretty much anything goes, but I'll get to that later, right? Um, well, the similarities. So it's similar in this where there's the creator, the father, almighty, the alpha and the omega, right? The beginning and ending of it all. And also in the church, the Catholic Church, there is Mother Mary, okay, the virtuous, righteous, immaculate virgin. And then you have the angels, and you have the saints, and your mere mortals, right? So that's the hierarchy within the Catholic Church. Now, in Voodoo, there's something similar where you have the hierarchy as well. For the Creator, God Almighty, right? And the dominion, okay, which is God, the dominion over it all. And then you have your angels, of course. You have your saints as well, and you have the loi, which has their tiers as well, right? So you have the popular loi, your Ezili, your Ogu, your Dambala, and Legba, the popular ones, right? And I'm going to speak for Guinea, right? And as you can see behind me are all these Catholic images, right? But get to that later. So now, okay, so then you have your popular, and then you have, your racine, loi racine, okay, loi famille in your family, the ancestors, those who came before, those who have passed on, les morts, um, and racine too also includes, the spirits that you'll find out in nature, whether it's water, whether it is in the trees, whether it's in the bushes, or racine could even be in your laku, in your neighborhood, your where you grew up, loi racine, okay? And then some way, some by way, some corneo, some by corneo, the ones that I see, the ones that I don't see, you know what I mean? The ones that have been forgotten. A la one by that, right? A la one by that. So I can't even really translate that one. So then you have that, right? And so that's the similarities, and it's also the differences, because you don't necessarily get the that nature aspect that's included in the Catholic Church, right? Because what the Catholic Church has done itself, they have gone around the world, okay? And I think there was another question too, where, like, is what I'm about to say anyway. Um, they've gone around the world, throughout different religions and different cultures. And what they have done is they go in and they take Okay? Oh, God the Father. And then you have the Holy Mother. And, okay, so they've been able to maintain the masculine and the feminine, right? And then what do? So even in you'll see in Egypt how they had all these goddesses and goddesses, gods and goddesses, right? They had those, okay, and the church has their saints, right? But the saints are good, and those gods and goddesses, that the Egyptians used in their as part of their spiritual practices and beliefs and culture and everything like that. That was wrong. Okay. Um, so the Catholics have set their standard. They've gone and they've taken and they said, oh, well, this is good and the other stuff is bad. And for the most part, those who are believers, because I mean, in Haiti itself, you have, your practitioner. Not everybody is a voodooist. Some people just go to church, okay? Especially in the Catholic Church, and they feel like they're righteous, and oh, I don't, this other stuff is that is dirty, and I don't have to necessarily do that because I go to church and I'm a believer, you know. For the most part, nobody's really taking the time out to find out what the origins of Christianity is, what the origin of Catholicism is, and don't even really realize the effects that Catholicism has had. And I think that was one of the comments that I said was, they've come, they've taken, they've given some, they have their agenda set in place, okay? And for the believers themselves, they have been appeased because they have a sense of, themselves that's been incorporated into the church and it is acceptable. And, the rest of it is left behind, and they are appeased and pacified and, go to sleep for the most part. And have stayed asleep because it's like, oh, this is the way, this is holy, and this is righteous, and blah 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 blah. And what has the church? How has you could go anywhere in the world and find a church. They have shrines. They have the cathedrals. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, when you're home, if you have one of these, you a devil worshiper and all this blah blah blah, right? But they have shrines. Anything goes in the Catholic Church. You've committed a sin, and you go and you confess your sin, and you are forgiven. But in voodoo, it is what it is. You pretty much you deal with it the way that you feel that it needs to be dealt with, and that is that. So that is my take, really. I mean, on that, what are your thoughts? I'd like to hear what are your thoughts on? Do you feel like there's what are the similarities between voodoo and Catholicism, and really, can you have one without the other? That's another question, but for another day. In the meantime, in the between time, take care of yourselves and each other.